bedroom fondling my underwear? And if I think about what it felt like to have that guy coming after me in the dark, intent on killing me, then yes, you bet I'm prepared to do that. Avenging angel, indeed, Jack said quietly. Chapter 50. I'm not an avenging angel, Kate said, as she set the nearly empty container on the coffee table. I'm just a person who wants to live. I'd like to die of old age, not— I understand, Jack said quietly. So you'll teach me then? You'll teach me what I need to know to stay alive? I already told you I would. You need to practice getting those blades out, getting those knives opened in an instant. But in the meantime, it's still early. If you'd like, we have time to practice some moves you need to know in order to use those knives effectively. I've got some extra lipsticks. We can use them, right? Perfect, Jack said. Kate got up and went to her suitcase to retrieve several tubes of lipstick while Jack pulled something out of his own suitcase and handed it to her. Keep this with you, along with those knives. She looked at what he put into her hand. A little flashlight? It's less common to be attacked in broad daylight. It can happen, but predators prefer the cover of darkness. This may be little, but it's a damned expensive little flashlight. It turns on with a push of the button on the end and puts out a high-intensity beam. Turn it on suddenly in the dark, and you can light blind an assailant. Blinding someone, even if it's only with light, gives you an advantage. If you're inside, say it's night and you're in bed, you wake up to the sound of someone coming into your bedroom. Grab your gun, turn on this flashlight, lay it on the bed pointing toward the door, and then roll off to the side and take aim. The light will draw his attention, and it will be so bright he won't be able to see where you are in the room. The surprise of bright light like this will make a person freeze for an instant. In that instant, they are the one on the X. Pull the trigger. Don't give them the opportunity to make a move toward you. You might only get one shot. Take it. Kate nodded as she stuck the flashlight in a back pocket. She opened 2 tubes of lipstick and held them the way she would the small knives. Okay. What do you want me to do? Well, the first thing that you need to keep in mind is your goal. You want to put the guy down as quickly as possible, and in a way that he doesn't ever get up again. Sounds obvious, but most people who get in a knife fight are running on adrenaline and frantically thrashing and slashing. They can certainly kill you that way, but unless they get you down and really go at stabbing you, they oftentimes end up inflicting a number of wounds that may be serious, but aren't necessarily life-threatening, as long as you get away from them in time. Unless they're practiced killers, they will often try to fight with brawn, like the guy you fought, even with a knife. You can't afford to fight like that. You don't have the strength they will have, and you can't afford to slash it out with them. A big guy can take more injuries than you can. If they have a gun, you need to deal with it immediately. If they have a knife, that's a different kind of problem, and you may have to deal with that in a different way. If they want to grab you like that guy outside AJ's house was trying to do, you can't afford to let him get in a blow or to get you on the ground, where he will be in charge of what happens, because it won't be pleasant. Don't forget, your friend Wilma was killed with one punch. Even if it doesn't kill you, or do a lot of damage, it could knock you out, or knock you senseless, and then you're at his mercy. You want to fight in much the same way you did, the way you trained. You're doing the same things, going for vulnerable spots, but with a blade. You need to always keep in mind what it is you need to do. It sounds obvious, but it's hard to remember in a lethal encounter. You need to keep your targets in mind. He touched both sides of his throat. The carotid artery is probably the fastest way to put a person down, and it's lethal. Kate grasped the lipstick tubes as if they were knives. I guess I know what you mean. It's like going to the grocery store. You don't walk around and randomly pick out things and throw them in the cart. You have a list of the things you need. Think of it that way. You have a list of targets on the guy that you want to cut. And just like when you're in the grocery store, If you see something along the way that's not on your list but it's useful, take the opportunity when it presents itself. Make the hit hard and fast so you can then go back to the kill zones. Keep uppermost in your mind that cutting him isn't necessarily the goal. To stop him, you want to bleed him to death, so you want to slice big arteries. If you need to, at least disable him. Slice tendons at the inside crook of his elbow and his arm will be useless. Make a quick jab into his eyes, then you can get in and sever an artery. Jack unbuttoned his shirt. "I don't want lipstick on my white shirt," he said as he pulled it out of his pants and tossed it on his bed. Kate hadn't been expecting that, and the sight momentarily stopped her. It was distracting, to say the least. He pointed a finger at her, like he was pointing a gun at her. Before he could tell her what he wanted her to do, she knocked his gun hand off to the side with the back of her left fist and immediately slashed down the inside of his wrist with the lipstick in her right hand. As he leaned toward his gun hand the way an assailant in real life would have, Kate immediately thrust a hand in toward his throat, aiming for the jugular. He blocked and trapped her arm under his. He spun around and slammed his back into her before she had time to react, and swept a leg around, taking her feet out from under her. Kate blinked up at him. He had her pinned with a knee in her abdomen. "Pretty good," he said. "You disabled my gun hand by cutting the tendons. Unfortunately, I could have just killed you in about 6 different ways." "How did you do that?" Kate asked up at him. He stood up and extended a hand down to help her up. "Because in trying to use the knives, you were forgetting what you know. You were trying to fight in a different way. You need to remember to fight the way you know." "What do you mean I'm forgetting what I know?" Kate asked when she was on her feet again. "When you slashed the wrist of my gun hand, what did I do?" "You flinched back, and I wasn't flinching back. I was getting fighting distance to disadvantage you. You have shorter arms. I was making you stretch to go for my throat. That let me capture your extended arm because you weren't controlling me. By gaining distance, I was controlling you." Angry at herself, Kate made a face. "You're right. I know better." "Then do better. Here I come again." Jack lunged at her to capture her in his arms. She slashed his abdomen, then, as he looked down at what she had done, she drove the lipstick knife up under his chin and pulled it down, leaving a nice red trail down his neck. Jack smiled. "Good. That was good." Again. This time, when he lunged at her, she wasn't exactly sure how he did it, but he slipped around her and held her up against him with one arm around her middle and his finger at her throat, as if holding a knife. Kate didn't move. She really didn't want to move. She found him distracting to the point that she could feel her face turning red. "Don't be embarrassed," he said at seeing her red face. "I kind of tricked you into that move." "Yeah, I guess you kind of did," she said as he released her. She didn't really want him to let her go. With all the frightening things she was learning, she ached for something as simple as being held. Kate reprimanded herself for letting herself be distracted. She reminded herself to put her mind to what he was teaching her. This was life and death, and she couldn't afford to be a bad student. A bad student was a dead student. For the next several hours, they sparred back and forth through the bedroom and sitting room. He coached her on what she was doing, refining her techniques. He showed her how to make moves to get the knife where she wanted it, and how to make a cut instead of delivering a blow. They moved the coffee table aside to give them room. He had her put the lipstick tubes in her pocket, then pretend to walk past so he could attack her from behind. She had to throw him off her and pull her lipstick knives from her pockets to counterattack. At one point, he had her lie in bed as if she were asleep, leaving her knives on a side chair to simulate them being with her clothes. As she lay there, pretending to be asleep, he jumped on her, planting his knees on both sides of her to hold her down under the bedspread. He looked down at her, his face mere inches away. When she didn't move, he said, "How are you going to get out of this?" "Well, I could show you, but I think you'd be sorry. Okay, I get the point, Jack smiled. But I'm afraid that your legs are trapped under the blanket. Try it. She did. But she didn't have any slack in the blanket, so she couldn't move. You can't use your knee the way you would like. You don't have your knives on you. What are you going to do? Kate momentarily gave thought to kissing him. That would certainly surprise the hell out of him. She thought better of it, though, and instead elbowed the inside of his arm at a pressure point to make his arm fold. When he lost his balance, she was able to flip him on his back, reversing their positions. She simulated strikes to his face and throat with her elbow, then dove for her knives. As he threw himself on her, she marked his carotid artery with a nice red lipstick stripe. He praised her moves, which pleased her, then had her start again with another scenario. Over and over he attacked her, and she tried to cut him in a lethal way. Before it was over, they were both sweating. Strings of hair stuck to her face as she panted. Jack went to the thermostat and turned it down. "I guess I should have thought of this before," he said, as he too panted. "You're hard to kill," Kate said. That made him laugh. She liked his laugh. She remembered AJ saying how much she liked his laugh. "How about we call it a night? I'd like to take a shower." "Me too," Kate said, still catching her breath. "Tomorrow is Sunday. We have all day to practice." Monday was John's funeral. "Only if you promise to be harder on me tomorrow. I think you were holding back tonight." Jack only smiled. He gestured toward the bigger bathroom. "You take that one. I'm pretty tired. I'm going to take a shower and get some sleep." Kate offered him a smile. "Sounds good." By the time Kate finally finished showering, washing and then drying her hair, and putting on a nightgown, all the lights in the bedroom were off. The room finally felt nice and cool. Only the other bathroom light was on, and the door was mostly closed to provide enough light not to fall over furniture. She saw that most of the burner phones had been taken out of their packages. They were lined up on the nightstand between the beds. Jack was sitting on the edge of the bed, programming numbers into one of them. He looked up when she came out. "You'll have to put all the numbers you need in a few of these. You're going to have to get rid of your cell phone." Kate remembered him explaining how he had hacked AJ's phone. She hated to have to get rid of her phone, but she understood the necessity. She supposed that as long as she could make calls, that was all that really mattered. She could give people at work a new number. She could see him looking at her in the near darkness. If he wanted to say something, he must have thought better of it. He had his shirt off, and the lipstick was all washed off. He wasn't sweaty anymore. As Kate crawled under the covers, out of the corner of her eye she saw him take a blue pill off the nightstand and swallow it with a drink of water. Kate knew that it was one of the Valium he took so he could sleep. That thought made her feel profoundly sad. What kind of world must he have to endure? What kinds of things must he have seen? How many people had he tried to help who only ended up being murdered because they wouldn't listen to him? How could he stand knowing what was coming for them and have them ignore him? Kate lay awake, listening to him breathe. She was having trouble sleeping herself. The mock battle had her keyed up. Within 30 minutes, she could hear his even breathing as sleep took him. She slipped out of bed and sat on the edge of his bed. Looking down at him, asleep, she thought that he was the most perfect man she had ever met. She had never had the kinds of feelings for anyone she was having for him. But she knew, too, that the things he had seen, the things he had been involved with, made him put a defensive wall up around himself. She knew he was reluctant to let himself get any closer to her. It was his barrier against any more pain. She kissed the end of her finger and then touched it lightly to his forehead. "No bad dreams tonight," she whispered. Just good dreams. She crawled back into her bed, lying on her side, watching his even breathing, until she fell asleep. Chapter 51. Kate idly smoothed the fabric of her black dress against her leg as she sat in the front row of the service while a minister spoke of God's plan and the eternal peace awaiting John. She wasn't really listening to him talk passionately of a mindless tragedy that had taken a gentle soul. Knowing what she knew, it sounded like ignorant babble to her as she stared at John's closed casket and wondered who might be behind her somewhere, watching her with murderous intent. Jack was somewhere behind her, too, watching her back. She felt better knowing that he was there, protecting her while she took care of John's final journey. John had liked going to the cemetery to visit the graves of their parents. Now he would be laid to rest beside them. Kate didn't really think that a stranger, a killer, would be among the gathering of people from the Clarkson Center where John had worked. She couldn't recall all of their names, but she recognized their faces. Since she knew all of her co-workers from KDEX who were there in attendance, a stranger would have stood out in the silent audience. It was not a likely place for an ambush. What worried her was what would be a good place for an ambush. For all she knew, there could be a killer with a rifle set up in a distant building, waiting for her to walk out of the mortuary so he could drop her with a single shot. He wouldn't need to cut out her eyes for proof. Such a murder would make the news, and he would have all the proof he needed to collect his reward. As she stared at the dead-looking bronze medal of the casket, she knew that somewhere there were preparations being made for AJ's funeral, along with those of her husband and son. It was hard to believe that AJ was gone. Kate wished so much that she had had the chance to talk about Jack with her, to have her meet Jack, to listen to her laugh or make a wisecrack. AJ had died because she knew John and Kate. She had been an inconvenience for the hunters, and so she had been murdered. Events were moving so fast that it didn't seem like Kate's emotions could keep up. She knew, though, that she couldn't let herself dwell in that sorrow, or she might not see what was coming for her. Kate's shoulders were a little sore from knife training the day before. It had been a long day of practice in their motel room. There were fleeting moments when it was fun sparring with Jack, but then the purpose of it all came rushing back in, and it became a grim, determined effort. At first, compared with the ways she had trained her whole life, it had felt confusing and awkward. Somewhere in the afternoon, though, it had come together in a way that fit naturally with what she already knew. Using knives rather than her bare hands became the new normal. The knives felt right in her hand. Even though she needed more practice, the blades were sometimes snapping out with hardly more than a thought. By the end of the day, it was hard to imagine defending herself without the knives. What she had learned from her fight with John and AJ's killer was that while she could fight pretty well, it wasn't good enough. If that man had been any better, or it had lasted any longer, it could easily have ended badly. Kate tried to bring her mind back to John's service, rather than dwelling on killers and fights. To either side of the casket were stands with beautiful sprays of flowers. Some were from the people where John had worked. Some were from people Kate worked with. It was comforting to know that there were people in the world who cared. Good people who had overcome their primitive killer origins and were guided by their better nature. But her newly discovered ability set her apart from those good people in ways she would never have expected. The good intentions of friends, or even law enforcement, would be trailing so far behind where she was on the scale of understanding that they could only drag her down so that harm could reach her. Kate reminded herself that there were cops like AJ that she might be able to confide in. There was also Jeff Steele. He was more than merely a contact with Army intelligence. She wasn't sure, though, if he would understand any of this business with killer DNA or her ability to recognize it. When the minister finished speaking, hushed conversation slowly welled up in the room. People stood, then started toward the front to greet Kate and give her their condolences. A lot of them hugged her and told her how sorry they were, or what a good and decent man John was. One woman with 2 missing front teeth told Kate a funny story about John mistakenly going into the women's bathroom at work. Kate pretended to laugh. She let a number of people take her hand for a moment as they told her how sorry they were. It was a difficult duty to endure. She did it as stoically as possible. Theo gave her a knowing smile as he put a hand on her shoulder. I hope that you will reconsider and take some time off. We can get by without you for a while. Kate forced a smile. Maybe I will. We'll see. Thank you so much for coming. It means a lot to me. It really does. A couple of young men in black suits began gently ushering everyone toward the side entrance as a few other of the staff waited, apparently, to take the casket out to the hearse. Jack, wearing a crisp black shirt, found her and gave her a silent nod to say that everything seemed clear. Bert spotted Kate and Jack standing together. The burly security officer came up to give Jack a wink. I'm glad to see you both together. You make a great-looking couple. Kate didn't have to force a smile. Are you breaking up our engagement? Bert grinned. I bow to the better man and give him my blessings. Jack smiled self-consciously. People shuffled out to their cars, most of them to go home, but a few followed instructions from the people at the funeral home and joined the line that formed up behind the hearse to go to the cemetery. Kate was relieved when she was finally alone in her car with Jack. It was painful to have to greet people, to listen to them say how sorry they were about her brother. She wanted it to be over. The whole time, she couldn't help but think of all of the times in her life that she had been John's guardian, watching out for him, helping him, protecting him. But she hadn't been there to protect him the day a killer had ended his life. How are you doing? Jack asked. As the hearse started away, Kate shifted the car into drive and pulled out behind it. I'm okay. What John had of life was a good life for him. A lot of people like him don't get the chance to live as fully as he did. And, Kate thought, none of them ever had the chance to help save the lives of others the way John did with AJ. There were people alive who never knew that if it were not for John and AJ, they would have encountered a killer. On the slow drive to the cemetery, it started to rain. Streetlights came on. They rode mostly in silence, Jack leaving her to her thoughts. After they wound their way through the cemetery and finally came to a stop at a gravesite, everyone trotted through the rain to gather under a temporary tent. John's casket was placed on a stand beside the place where it would be buried. People huddled around as the minister said a final prayer. Kate didn't really hear him. She was thinking about things all the people gathered around would never be able to imagine. Kate remembered her last phone call with John. He had said that he went to take flowers to their parents' grave, and someone had been watching him. Now she knew he had been right. She continually scanned the cemetery, looking for anything suspicious, anything threatening. Jack, standing silently beside her, did the same. Other people visited graves, but no one looked their way. Kate saw an older woman weeping, holding a white handkerchief to her mouth, as a man comforted her with an arm around her shoulders. When the brief ceremony was finished, and people began to hurry to their cars to get out of the rain, Kate, instead, went to stand for a time over the graves of her parents, there beside where John was to be laid to rest. It struck Kate how ironic it was that she was standing in a graveyard, wondering if someone wanting to kill her was watching, waiting for his chance to end her life. The tension of it all was getting to her. She wanted the whole thing to end, but she knew that it never would. After the brief service at the cemetery, the remaining people went to a reception hall for a simple buffet. They had meats and cheeses, along with bread if you wanted to make a sandwich. The atmosphere was considerably less grim and more light-hearted. People talked and laughed a little as they ate finger food. The reception hall was on a busy street. Through the front windows, Kate could see a gas station and convenience store not far away on the other side of the street. The streets were busy with cars. The rain slowed everyone down, making it seem even more crowded. There were apartment buildings across the street. People were continually going in and out of the parking lot. When the gathering ended and she and Jack finally left and went to the car, Kate couldn't help thinking of what a hopeless task it was to know if any of the people she could see were hunting her. For all she knew, the man putting gas into a gray minivan who looked over his shoulder at her could be simply curious, or he could be stalking her. A car pulled in the lot across the street and the engine and lights were turned off, but no one got out. Because of the rain, she couldn't tell if there was someone sitting inside talking, or if they were waiting for someone, or if they were watching her. It was an uncomfortable feeling, not knowing if a killer was watching, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Chapter 52. "So, what do you want to do now?" Jack asked, as she pulled out onto the busy 4-lane street. Kate looked over at him. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "You took today off work for the funeral. Are you going to go back to work tomorrow? Or are you going to take some time off?" Kate thought for a moment. "I suppose I'll just go back to work. But I'm nervous about going home. I guess that for right now I'd feel better staying at a motel. I don't like the idea of sleeping all alone on the X. At work there are people around." "Your photos have only just been posted on the scavenger hunt site. A lot of killers tend to be impatient, like the guy who attacked the woman where you work when he couldn't find you there. Not all of them are clear thinkers. If they go looking for you but can't find you where the information says you are, but you're never there, some of these people will give up." "Some of them," Kate said. "But not all." "Not all," Jack agreed. "And I don't mean to create false optimism, but there is no way of knowing for sure if any killers, much less the super predators, visit the site." "You think that maybe no one else knows about it?" "It's hard to say. Considering how many negative reviews were posted by visitors to the scavenger hunt site, that would indicate that a number of people go there." "Yes," Jack said. "But there is a difference between writing a bad review to earn a few bucks and be part of a hate campaign, and being willing to murder." "Staying away from my house is one thing, but I don't know if I can take time off work right now," she said. "I was out of town for 3 weeks, and I have a lot of cases pending." "Can't you give them to someone else?" "Sure, I suppose. But I would need to make arrangements for that kind of thing, give people briefings." Even though he didn't answer, she could almost hear him asking if it was worth her life. But he remained silent. The windshield wipers slapped back and forth in an effort to keep up with the spray from the pickup in front of her. Kate finally tired of following the lights and spray of other cars crowding the 4-lane road, so she turned off on a side street to take a different route toward the motel. "So you think we should stay at the motel for a while?" "At the minimum," Jack said. "What would be more than a minimum?" "Why don't you come with me to New York? Take a vacation. It will give you a breather." Kate turned down a deserted street that she wasn't familiar with, but that headed in the general direction she wanted to go. She noticed that a car some distance behind took the same turn. "How long do you think you will be in New York?" "I don't know," he said. "I need to see my editor, Shannon Blair. Maybe meet with the publicity department. I suppose that I only need to be there for a day or two, but we could spend as much time there as we want. See the sights. Maybe go for a ride up or down the coast without having to worry about who might be following us. Kate looked over. Did you see that car that turned with us? Jack nodded. I saw it get in our lane a few cars back, and then make the turn behind us. Kate made another turn, into a junky industrial area with chain-link fences protecting rusting car parts, stacks of railroad ties, and piles covered with blue tarps. It was late in the evening, and anyone who worked in the area had gone home. At intersections, Kate could see lights in small houses, several blocks off to the side, but there was no one on the street. The car behind them made the same turn she did, but was going slower, so that the gap between them grew. One car passed them, going in the other direction, but other than that, Kate didn't see anyone. Jack wasn't saying anything. She got the distinct feeling that he was simply going to watch and see what she would do, see how she would handle the situation. Kate made another turn down a deserted side street with empty brick buildings and messy-looking alleys. It was not the kind of neighborhood she would want to have car trouble in. She pulled to the curb, just before the corner. "What are you doing?" Jack asked. "We're having car trouble," she said. "We are?" In the distance, in the rearview mirror, Kate saw the lights of the car make the turn behind them. It was still some distance away. She reached under the dash to pop the hood. "Now what are you doing?" Jack asked. "I'm taking care of the situation." "Wouldn't you rather I handle this?" Kate thought about her brother. She thought about the man who had tried to kill her after he had just slaughtered AJ and her family. No. Kate swung her door open and stepped out into the rain. Jack ducked down to look out at her as she stood. "There could be a killer in that car." "I know." "So what are you planning to do about it?" Kate rested a forearm on the window frame as she leaned down to look into the car. "He's the one on the X. He's already dead. I just need to go tell him." She shut the car door and then opened the hood, watching the car slowing as it came up behind them. The rain made a dull drumming noise as it beat down on the roof of the car. Kate felt like her heart had come up in her throat as the car pulled over a little, stopping behind her car. She waved an arm to get the driver's attention. She heard the driver's window roll down. She felt like she was watching herself in a dream. "Need some help?" came a muffled voice. Kate was moving toward the car before she even realized it. She picked up speed, wanting to get to him before he had a chance to get out. She reached the driver's door. When the door opened, she clicked on the flashlight, illuminating the driver's face. She was standing right over him. She didn't intend to give him a chance to get up. His right hand came up to shield his eyes, but before it did, she saw those eyes, and saw what was in them. It wasn't murder. It wasn't anything. He was just a guy in a sleeveless shirt. He looked mean enough and had tattoos on his meaty shoulders, but he didn't have murder in his eyes. Kate froze. She had the flashlight in one hand and a knife in the other, an instant away from cutting his throat. "Sorry," she said. "Sorry, it's all right." The heavy-set man made a face.
"Do you need help? I saw you put the hood up. This isn't a neighborhood you would want to break down in."
"It's nothing," Kate said, her adrenaline still making her heart pound. "I just needed to check the fan belt, I thought. But it's fine. It's all right."
"You sure? You aren't stranded there?"
"No," Kate said, shaking her head to assure him. "I just stopped to check, that's all. Thank you for stopping, but I'm fine, thank you." The driver heaved a sigh and slammed his door shut.
"If I were you, I'd get out of here and check your car at a gas station or something."
"That's a good idea," Kate said. "I'll do that. Thank you." Her own voice sounded foolish to her. The guy pulled away, leaving her standing there in the rain. She folded the blade of the knife and clipped it back inside the pocket of her dress as he disappeared down the street. The thin material of the dress was soaking wet. She was freezing cold. Kate went around to the front of her car, angry at herself for letting her imagination get the best of her. She felt weak at how close she had come to killing an innocent person. She felt foolish. She could see the dark shape of Jack sitting in the car. She wondered what he was going to think of her. As she slammed the hood of her car and turned, she saw the nose of a car just around the far side of the building at the corner. The car hadn't been there when she had stopped. At least, she didn't remember it being there. Almost at the same time she saw the car, she saw the silhouette of a big man. With all the black shapes of buildings and poles and fences and piles of junk, the dark form blended in and was almost impossible to see. Kate's world spun around when he backhanded her. She landed in the wet street, stunned by the shock of pain. She gathered her wits as she sprang to her feet. The passenger door flew open, and Jack was out of the car. The figure fired off 3 shots at him. The sound of the gunfire made her flinch. Kate saw Jack roll off to the side. When the man swung back around, pointing the gun at Kate, the light from a distant street lamp caught him just right, and she saw his eyes. The sight of those eyes shot icy fear through her veins.
"Kate Bishop," he said. "What a payday this is going."
Before he could get another word out, Kate backhanded his gun hand with her left fist. She would have tried to slash the inside of his wrist holding the gun, but the force of her blow had surprised him enough to knock the gun from his hand. It went skittering across the wet pavement. Before he could do anything, before he could recover from the surprise of losing his gun, before Kate could even look to see if Jack was dead or alive, in a crystal-clear instant, she saw her target. It was as if time froze, giving her that instant of clarity she needed. In one clean thrust, she caught the side of his neck, and with all her strength, she yanked the blade back, cutting through muscle and tendon. She had cut him so deep that, in addition to severing his carotid artery, it partially cut open his windpipe. His breath coming out of that gash in his windpipe sprayed the blood pumping out of his artery. It made a horrible sound as he sucked in a breath through the wound. Before his hands could make it to his throat, she struck with her left hand and cut the carotid artery on his right side. As dark as it was, she could still see blood pumping out in spurts and going everywhere. She could smell it. The big man dropped to his knees, trying to speak but unable to because of the opening in his windpipe. He fell to his side, his arms flopping out onto the pavement. Kate, too, fell to her knees. She let out a cry of anguish, and then Jack was lifting her up.
"It's all right. You're okay."
Kate let out another cry as she fell into his arms. He hugged her tight, whispering to her that it was okay, that she was fine. It was a moment before she could speak. "Are you okay? Were you hit? I was so afraid that he shot you." Jack put a hand to the back of her head and pressed her to his shoulder.
"No, he missed. Remember what I told you?"
She sucked back a sob of terror. "That it's hard to hit a moving target?"
"That's right,"
he said with a smile as he held her away and looked into her eyes.
"You did good, Kate. You did everything right."
"Did you know he was there?"
Jack shook his head. "I hate to admit it, but I didn't see him until you did. It was over before I could get out of the car and make it to you. By then, you had already handled it."
Kate nodded, overwhelmed by a flood of emotions. Terror, surprise, and a rush of triumphant joy that she and Jack were alive and unhurt.
"Go wait in the car,"
Jack said, as he bent down beside the guy, immediately starting to go through his pockets, taking his phone, wallet, and anything else he could find. "Are we going to call the police?"
"Hell no, we're not going to call the police."
He looked around briefly.
"There aren't likely to be any cameras in this area, but even if there are, they won't show much in the rain. The last thing you need is to get tangled up in this. How would that help? The guy was trying to kill you. You defended yourself. End of story.
I guess you're right. Her instinct was to call the authorities, but she knew Jack was right.
Go on, wait in the car, he said. I'll be right there.
Kate nodded, but she didn't move. She didn't want to leave Jack there alone. Maybe she didn't want to be alone herself. Jack finished and ushered her to the passenger side of the car. He held her arm as he sat her down, and then he shut the door. When he got in, he started the engine, then looked over at her.
Kate, you need to be clear about this. I know that individual cops would be happy that you put down a killer, but their political bosses don't care about your life as much as their careers. You could prove your innocence this time, but if it happens again, they will call it vigilantism. They will say that you were looking for these people so you can take the law into your own hands, as if your life is less important than their notion of law and order. Do you understand what I'm telling you?
Kate was finally gathering her wits. It's hard for me to think of things that way, but I understand. My life depends on me now, not the law. He put a hand over hers.
It's hard. I know. You did the right thing. You defended your life. That's all that matters.
Kate turned the rearview mirror and looked at herself. She saw the eyes of a killer looking back. Not the eyes of a murderer like the man she had just killed, but eyes like Mike's had been. Eyes like Jack's were. It was so strange to see that look in her eyes looking back at her that she had trouble recognizing herself. Her hair was wet and matted. She saw that blood was running down her chin from where the guy had clobbered her. It made her angry at herself that he had managed to get in those 3 shots. He could have killed Jack. He could have shot her. She needed to be faster the next time, or she might not be so lucky. But she had survived, and he was the one who was dead. That was what mattered. He knew my name, Kate said. He said my name, and that this was going to be his big payday.
Like you said, you intended to put him on the X. You succeeded, Jack said. He must have followed us. I didn't even realize it until I saw his car parked on the other side of that building.
He knew my name, Kate said again with emphasis.
I know,
Jack said as he pulled away from the curb, taking care to drive around the corpse.
He undoubtedly knew it from the scavenger hunt site.
Kate picked up her phone from the center console, unlocked it, and pressed a speed dial number. She pointed, directing Jack to take the next left. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand as she listened to the phone ring.
"Hello?"
a man's voice said. "Theo? It's me, Kate."
"Kate? Are you all right? You sound... I don't know. Are you all right?"
"Yes, I'm fine. It's just that it's been an emotional day for me with the funeral and all."
"I understand. You gave John a beautiful ceremony."
Kate put her elbow on the armrest and rubbed her fingertips on her forehead as she held the phone up to her ear. "Listen, Theo, if you think you could do without me for a little while, I think I'd like to take your advice and take some time off."
"Of course," he said immediately. "All the time you need, Kate."
He thought for a moment.
"Have you ever taken a vacation?"
"No," she said, trying her best to control her voice.
"Then you have one coming. Take all the time you need."
"Thanks, Theo. You're the best. I'll be in touch."
"Okay. Please take care of yourself, and you call me if there's anything I can do for you."
"I will. Good night."
She sat for a moment after ending the call, staring at her trembling hands. Finally, she looked over at Jack. "Can I come to New York with you?" Jack smiled as he reached over and touched her chin. "Sure." That made Kate smile. Chapter 53. Kate walked at a brisk pace beside Jack, both of them pulling their carry-on bags behind as they made their way through the clots of people in the sprawling airport. They were both dressed casually. They had to alter their course constantly, weaving among people crowding into gates, walking slowly, looking in store windows, or not paying any attention to where they were going. For midweek, O'Hare was unusually busy. Terminal 5, post-security, was as elegant a shopping experience as just about anywhere in the city. The wood and glass design elements of retail spaces were graceful and modern. It was a strange juxtaposition to see some disheveled flyers in flip-flops shuffling past such stylish shops. Kate never looked forward to flying. It was time-consuming and wearying to have to deal with the bureaucracy and all the security restrictions and regulations that seemed to grow day by day. But this time she felt better about it, because at least they were getting out of Chicago and away from where people were actively hunting her. They were getting off the X. More than that, though, she couldn't help feeling good to be going with Jack. It was going to be a needed respite from the duties of her job and a chance to decompress from the terrible grief over the deaths of John and AJ's family. Kate wasn't carrying the small knives Jack had given her. She felt naked and vulnerable without them. She had never felt that way before. But, of course, no one had been trying to kill her before. At least, not that she knew about. Now, her photos and personal information were posted on the darknet. There was a reward for her life. She was relieved to be leaving town for a while to vanish into New York City, where no one would know her. They had both put their knives in their checked baggage. Being in security herself, Kate knew that the results of tests conducted by any number of agencies had shown that between 90 and 95% of testers had been able to get guns, knives, and even bombs past airport security with no problem. Jeff Steele had warned her not to be lulled into complacency by airport security and to remain vigilant. Security was mostly a show for the public to make them feel safe, to make them feel like the government was protecting them when it really wasn't. Most people believed in the show and felt safer for it. And to some degree, a show of security did tend to discourage people who meant harm. Still, Kate knew from her own work that not everyone was discouraged by a show of security. The chances of security finding their knives in a carry-on bag were slim, and since they were so small, the most they were likely to do would be to confiscate them. Jack didn't want to take that risk for no good reason. He said that she already knew how to fight, and just about anything could be used as a weapon, even a rolled-up magazine. He said it was better to remain unnoticed by authorities. Besides, there was a lot of security in airports, both security you could see and security you couldn't see. Kate had gotten used to having the knives on her. Jack had given them to her to help keep her safe. Because of that, they had taken on a meaning of their own. They were symbolic as well as defensive, especially after the time he spent teaching her to use them, and especially after they had saved her life the day of her brother's funeral. As they walked past a gate for Air France, a man on crutches was being allowed to board before anyone else. He was in a tan jacket and had a dark blue backpack. As he went past the boarding kiosk, he looked back, scanning the crowd. His gaze briefly met Kate's. When she looked into the man's dark eyes, Kate stopped dead in her tracks. He obviously didn't recognize her ability by looking into her eyes, because he didn't show any reaction to seeing her. But she certainly reacted to him. Jack stopped beside her and glanced in the direction she was staring. "Kate?" Kate.
Transfixed, she hardly heard him. Her mind filled with images. His grip tightened on her arm, and he kept his voice low.
Kate. Look at me.
She blinked and looked into his eyes.
Do you see something? He asked.
In the chilling grip of fear that kind of eyes always gave her, she struggled to find her voice. Yes.
Then walk.
What?
Walk.
He squeezed her arm harder.
Kate, you need to walk.
Once they started away, he leaned closer.
What did you see?
A man on crutches, in the tan jacket, just going into the jetway, she said, looking back over her shoulder as Jack dragged her farther away. He's planning to kill the people on that plane.
Jack paused. Are you sure?
He pulled her to the side, out of the way of the churning rivers of people.
Kate, are you sure?
She looked back at him. Dead sure. He is planning to kill all the people on that plane. When he continued to stare at her, she tilted her head toward him. I'm positive, Jack. Jack stared at her for a few brief seconds longer. He glanced back toward the Air France gate and then pulled out a cell phone. He pushed the number at the top of the speed dial list. Someone answered after the first ring.
Get me Dvora Artsy. This is an emergency.
Jack gave his name and then rattled off a series of numbers and letters, obviously a code. Almost immediately, someone else got on the line.
Dvora, it's Jack Rains. I have an emergency. I'm at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, Terminal 5. I'm with a subject. She just identified a man getting on an Air France plane.
Jack looked over the heads of people moving through the busy aisle to the gate number diagonally across the concourse.
Gate M12.
He listened, and then tipped the phone down away from his mouth to speak to Kate.
Describe him.
Kate leaned in, putting her mouth close to the phone. 5'10", on aluminum crutches, tan jacket, dark blue backpack, short black hair, clean-shaven, silver bracelet on his right wrist. As Kate leaned back, Jack listened to the woman ask something. He looked up.
She wants to know how sure you are.
Kate twitched a frown. I'm positive.
She says she's positive,
Jack told the woman on the phone. Kate leaned in to speak into the phone. He has a bomb that was surgically implanted in his abdomen. It doesn't use metal for shrapnel so that it wouldn't be easily detected. He intends to explode it once they are midway over the Atlantic Ocean. Jack's face lost some of its color as he stared at her. He listened to the woman on the phone for a moment and then asked Kate.
Anything else?
The bomb has a dead man switch.
Dvora, did you hear that? He asked the woman on the phone. The bomb has a dead man switch.
The voice asked something laced with brief hesitation.
Do you remember Jemima? Jack asked. Yes, that's the one. On her very best day, Jemima couldn't begin to be the equal of the subject I'm with right now.
There was a pause as Jack listened, and then he said,
All right, hurry.
He slipped the phone back into his pocket.
I'm afraid that we're going to have to catch a later flight to New York. All hell is about to break loose, and the airport is going to be evacuated.
Kate looked around. Everything looked so normal. I'm a subject? She asked, without looking at him. Is that what I am to you? A subject? Jack grasped her by the upper arm and turned her back to face him.
That's what the Mossad call the people I work with, that's all. They know what I mean when I say it.
Kate nodded. It seemed a hollow explanation.
You're more than that to me, Kate, he finally said. It's not you. It's just that I can't be.
Kate understood. Rita, and who knew how many others before her, had been too painful an experience.
Kate vividly remembered him telling her about the videos of her being tortured, of her calling out his name and begging for him to save her, of her dying. He was too afraid of exposing himself to that kind of heartache again, so he had walled himself off. That was why he had told her that he would never have the chance to hear a woman say that she loved him. Two men dressed casually raced up through the terminal, pushing their way through the throngs of people. They looked like any of the ordinary passengers in the airport, except they had chains hanging from their necks with some kind of ID. Kate could tell from their demeanor that they were anything but ordinary. Holding out their IDs, they ran past the two women at the check-in desk without slowing. Both of the women, along with most of the passengers waiting at the gate, looked startled. "I hope they can stop him," Kate said. "Maybe it will be okay." "I hope so," he agreed. Jack's brow drew down as he turned his attention back to her. He looked more than a little agitated. "You said that man has a bomb. What makes you think he has a bomb?" Kate blinked at the question. "Because he does." "You said it was surgically implanted in his abdomen. How in the world could you possibly know that?" Kate's brow tightened. "You're the expert." Kate was concerned by how upset he had become. "You tell me." "You could tell by his eyes that he was a killer?" "Yes." Jack held a finger up, as if for emphasis. "Okay. You saw in his eyes that he is a killer, I get that. But what could possibly make you think he has a bomb?" Kate wasn't sure what he was getting at, what was upsetting him. "By looking in his eyes. I just know. It's all there." "Knowing a killer by looking into their eyes is one thing," Jack said. "But telling anything else about them, like that they have a bomb, is something else entirely. Have you ever done anything like that before?" "Yes. I picked a couple out of a bunch of photos AJ showed me. I told her they were killers. I told her that the man wasn't very bright and that he had raped a girl and that it was the wife's idea to kill her, but they both took part in the murder. I told her that they used knives." "Did you ever find out if you were correct?" "Yes. AJ told me that when they brought them in, they found out that everything was exactly as I had told her." Jack stared at her briefly. "You can't do that." Kate was alarmed by the concern in his eyes. "What do you mean I can't do it? I just told you I did. You're the one who came to find me because I can identify murderers by looking at their eyes." "Know that they are a murderer, yes, but that's all. You can only tell that they're a killer. You can't tell anything else by looking into their eyes." "Yes, I can," she insisted. Just then, two muffled shots rang out in quick succession, almost together. Jack put his hand behind her head and protectively pulled her toward him. "That's air marshals." An instant later, another shot. Jack looked toward the Air France gate. Kate looked back too. Stewards ran out of the jetway, the pilots and flight crew right on their heels. Before they were clear of the jetway, an explosion ripped a hole the size of a truck in the side of the plane back near the tail. Flying debris from the plane blew out all the windows of the Air France gate and several the next gate over. Pandemonium erupted as glass flew through the crowds of screaming people. A human head, attached to the upper portion of a bloody spinal cord, landed on the rows of blue chairs in the waiting area. Chunks of debris skated and skipped across the floor, knocking a few people down as smoke rolled in through the broken windows. It seemed like everyone was screaming and running. The tail of the plane, lifted a little by the explosion, settled down at a crooked angle. The two air marshals stumbled out of the jetway, both covered in blood. Men with long guns forced their way upstream as most people parted to make way. Other men ran in with dogs on leashes. Police appeared, directing panicked people back away from the area. The passengers who had been waiting to board scattered. Everyone in the terminal started running, a good many of them screaming.
Jack circled his arm around Kate's waist and started her walking back the way they had come, moving her into the river of people going the way they were being directed by police.
"Like I told you," he said. "The place is going to be evacuated."
"Like I told you," Kate said. "The guy had a bomb." He looked down at her. His face hadn't regained its color.
"You just saved several hundred lives."
Kate frowned at his odd expression. "Did I just also do something that you didn't think I should be able to do?"
"You sure as hell did."
Chapter 54. Jack pointed.
"There."
Kate craned her neck and saw an older, lanky man in a black suit standing in a line with other men of every size, shape, and color, dressed in similar black suits and white shirts, all holding up a piece of paper or an iPad with a name on it. The lanky man's iPad said Rains. They followed the limo driver through the airport outside to a shiny black SUV standing at a curb in a limousine-only area. The streets and parking looked like they were all too small to accommodate the volume of modern life. After hours of looking out at an empty sky and soft layers of clouds, it felt strange to be hemmed in by the hard shapes of buildings and congested streets packed with traffic. Shannon Blair, Jack's editor, had arranged for the limo to pick them up. She had told Jack that she was eager to see him the following day. In the meantime, she said that she insisted on getting them a beautiful suite near Gramercy Park, which she said was one of the most lovely spots in the city. Kate was just relieved to be away from places where she was being hunted. Shannon Blair told Jack she was looking forward to meeting the young lady he brought with them, having been at least somewhat responsible for them meeting, since she had been the one who put AJ in contact with Jack. It felt good to sit at last in the relative quiet of the back seat. It was nice to have someone else drive and negotiate the heavy traffic. The hours of jet engine noise had been tiring, leaving Kate with a dull headache. Fortunately, the flight had been routine. It had taken 2 days before O'Hare Airport was cleared to reopen. Airline schedules were struggling to get back to normal, and they had been fortunate to catch another flight. Kate had been relieved to finally make it out of Chicago. While waiting for a flight, they had stayed in a hotel near the airport. Jack hadn't wanted to take any chances, so he had used another fake ID. They had killed the time with hours of practice lipstick fights, room service, and a few long conversations. It felt good to talk with him about nothing of any particular importance. The hotel, being near the airport, was noisy. In a way, Kate longed for the quiet of her job at KDEX. It was nerve-wracking, not knowing how long her vacation was going to last. The almost continual news about the bombing at the airport had been filled with inaccuracies. Most of it was the usual careless reporting spiced with speculation, but Kate suspected that some of it was wrong for security reasons. The bomb, for instance, was reported to have been in the bomber's backpack. No mention was ever made of it being surgically implanted in the man's abdomen. Kate had no doubt about that part of it. Jack's contact in the Mossad had confirmed that she was right. They were very interested in this new subject he had located. Jack had promised that one day he would introduce them. Excuses and explanations for the failure in security were continually being given out. Congressmen were outraged. The president spoke on the tragedy. He announced the formation of an investigative committee and called for Congress to act to increase the TSA budget. There was very little actual information in any of the reports. They watched almost no TV after the initial reports. The 2 air marshals were both hospitalized in serious condition. One had lost an eye. Both were expected to live. There were numerous stories about how, because of the placement of the bomb, the plane's hydraulic and electrical systems were compromised in a way that, had the plane been airborne, would have resulted in a crash, killing all on board. Kate knew by what she saw that had it happened in the air, the plane would have lost the entire tail section. Had it happened over the ocean, it was possible that wreckage wouldn't be found, and no one would have known the reason the plane went down. News accounts said that authorities had been alerted by a tip, and that was all that had prevented a horrific tragedy. Kate had trouble reconciling the fact that because of her, that crash had never happened, and all those lives had not been lost. While the whole thing, in a way, didn't seem real, it did help make up for how her ability had turned her life upside down. A lot of good people were still alive. A killer was dead. An Islamic terror group claimed responsibility and promised more such attacks against aircraft. In those promises, Kate saw the inexorable movement of the pendulum. During those 2 days waiting in the hotel to get another flight, Jack had questioned her in detail. Kate had thought that what she had done at the airport, just like what she had done with the photos of the husband and wife killers AJ had shown her, was simply part of the same ability she had to recognize a killer by seeing his eyes. Jack had assured her that it most certainly was not. At least, it was not a part of her ability as far as his experience with others had taught him. He said that what she had done was a complete unknown as far as he was concerned. Kate had no useful answers as to how she did it, except that she just could. When she had looked into the man's eyes, in that instant, she had seen it all in his eyes. She didn't know how, but with that single look, she simply knew. It wasn't something separate, like a scene from a movie streaming into her. It was simply something she knew in totality, like looking out of a window and taking in everything all at once. The only reference to such an ability Jack knew of was in an 11th century text about a monk believed at the time to be a prophet. It was said that he identified murderers and at the same time revealed their crimes. Jack said that it was hard to know how much truth there was in such accounts, since so much of it involved superstition. As their limo made its way through the crowded streets, Kate couldn't help but marvel at the endless, tightly packed buildings. The enormity of the city made Chicago seem like a small town. Even though it was getting dark, the city was awash with light. Windows filled with light rose all around. The city had a distinctive aroma, not unpleasant, but different from any other place she had been. It was rather amazing to see so many people and to know that this was their home, the only home they knew, and that many of them had never seen anything else of America except on TV. In a way, the neighborhoods with stores and traffic and alive with crowds were exciting. They were life. They were civilization.
"That's Gramercy Park," the limo driver said over his shoulder. "We will be to your hotel shortly."
Off to the left was a beautifully manicured park bordered by a black wrought iron fence. Kate could see a statue standing in a circle in the center of the park. It was surrounded by wide paths and inviting green benches. "Can we go for a walk there?" Kate asked.
"It's a private park," Jack said. "People who live around it pay an annual fee to be able to get in. Our hotel's not far from here. They may have a key to allow guests to visit the park. If they do, we'll go there tomorrow, all right?"
Kate smiled as she nodded, looking out the window at all the people strolling along the sidewalk outside the wrought iron fence and the green world within. Without thinking about it, Kate took hold of Jack's hand as she gazed out the window at the city going endlessly past outside the limo window. Jack squeezed her hand. For the first time, a vacation was beginning to feel pretty good. Chapter 55.
"That's really nice of you, Shannon,"
Jack said on the phone as they stood near the check-in desk waiting for another couple to finish registering.
"No, really, it's all right. I understand. To tell you the truth, we're both pretty tired anyway. It's been a long day. I think we'd both rather get some sleep. Thanks again, Shannon. All right, we will. Yes. See you tomorrow, then. She wanted to take us to a nice place for dinner, Jack said as he returned the phone to his pocket, but she has an appointment she can't break. Kate yawned. Good. Honestly, I wasn't really looking forward to going out to dinner and having to smile. It's already getting late, especially on East Coast time. Jack nodded his agreement. To make up for it, she said she's having a special dinner sent up to our suite. Dinner in our room rather than a knife fight would be nice, Kate said. Jack laughed. The lobby had a lot of white Carrara marble and frosted glass, warmed by the dark wood of the registration area. A young woman in a crisp gray uniform, her dark hair pulled back into a ponytail, took Jack's information. For once, he gave his correct name and ID. The receptionist said that their 2-bedroom suite had already been reserved for 1 week, and it had already been paid for. Kate envisioned flopping down on the bed on her back and letting out a weary sigh. The bellhop brought their bags in from the limo and put them on a cart. Jack let the man lead them up to the 5th floor. The bellhop told them about the hotel restaurant and several others in the area. The suite was less spacious than suites in other cities, but it looked cozy enough. There was a small central sitting area with 2 tufted wingback chairs at a small table near a window, with floor-to-ceiling white sheers and gray drapes. The room was painted a strong but pleasant green. There were framed black and white photos of dancers on the walls. Jack suggested that Kate take the larger of the 2 bedrooms. It had mellow, rose-colored walls, a bright blue velvet headboard, and a red throw on the white bedspread. The bellhop put her suitcase on the stand for her and put Jack's in the other bedroom. After Jack gave the man a tip, they were alone at last. Kate had been in her share of hotels, but this one was different. Spaces were smaller. It felt old. The noise of the city was a presence in the room, part of the feel of the place. Still, it was attractive and quite lovely. Mostly, Kate was tired of being in crowds, so it felt good to be alone. As tired as she was, she hoped Jack didn't want to practice knife fighting. Jack appeared in the doorway to her bedroom. He had one of the phones they had bought at the electronics store. Why don't you keep one of these so that we have a backup with the same numbers? When we go out, we shouldn't leave these in the room. Kate put the phone in the back pocket of her jeans, then took out her 2 knives and clipped one inside each front pocket. She felt better having them on her. Before she had a chance to unpack anything, there was a knock at the door. It was a waiter with a white towel draped over one arm. He pushed a table into the room. It was set with silver-rimmed plates and oval dishes with silver covers. "Compliments of Miss Blair," the man said as he arranged the wingback chairs at the food cart. He lifted the lids, showing them a chicken casserole with baby potatoes around the edge and another serving dish with asparagus. He pointed out sherbet for dessert. He held a hand out toward 2 bottles of water. "Still or sparkling?" Both Jack and Kate said still. "I'm so dry from being on the plane, I think I could drink the whole bottle myself," Kate said. The waiter smiled and bowed slightly. "If the lady would like more, there are extra bottles under the table." He lifted the side of the white tablecloth to show her. He uncorked a bottle of wine and replaced it in the bucket with ice. "Will there be anything else at the moment?" "No, it's more than enough. And it looks delicious," Jack said, handing the man a tip. "Thank you." Once he was gone, the 2 of them flopped down in the wingback chairs, opposite each other at the table. "I wish I was more hungry," Kate said. "Mostly I'm just worn out." Jack agreed. "Some food will give you some energy."
They both downed their glasses of water, and Jack poured more. He also poured them each a little bit of wine. He held up his wine glass in a toast. "To the rest of your life." Kate smiled and tapped his wine glass with hers. She took a sip and sat back. "Are you going to tell your editor everything about your new book? Everything you told me?" Jack shrugged. "I'll tell her as much as I need to in order to make sure she's interested enough. I'd rather have her read the manuscript when I'm done, but she needs a certain amount of information to do her job. Just kind of depends on how it goes. She knows that the central theme is how murder is part of our nature, and that already has her interest. She said that she loved the first book, and they're looking forward to publishing the second." Jack poured himself another glass of water. Kate held hers out for a refill. As she drank it down, Jack put some chicken and a couple of little potatoes on a plate for her. Kate leaned back as she let out a heavy sigh, not realizing how tired she was from the long day. She didn't know if she had the energy to pick up her fork. She saw Jack slump back in his wingback chair. She was having difficulty focusing her vision. Her head rolled to the side. She saw her glass slip from her hand to the floor. It didn't seem to matter. The room closed in around her as she felt herself slipping away. A distant sense of terror tried to get her attention, but dimmed to little more than a thick, incomprehensible whisper. She strained to remain conscious, but she could feel it fading away from her. Everything was getting fuzzy. She blinked, trying to make her eyes focus. Something cast a shadow over her. A big hand slipped under her arm, lifting her. She was a rag doll, unable to react. She saw shapes ghosting into the room.
"Good evening,"
a gravelly voice said into her ear.
"I'm Victor. My, but you're a pretty one. You're going to be the perfect star for my next show."
As her eyes rolled back, she briefly saw his eyes. They were the ice-cold eyes of a killer. Kate's world evaporated into nothingness. Chapter 56. Kate became dimly aware of light. Nothing made sense. A shadow passed over her. Her mind felt as if it were immersed in a deep, thick darkness. She made an effort to force herself to think. It didn't produce much of anything, other than that she recognized the taste of blood in her mouth. Someone slapped her. It was hard enough to nearly knock her over. The shock of pain startled her. Her immediate reaction was to yell at them to stop it, but no yell would come out. The sting of the slap started to sharpen her senses back into focus a little. She realized that she was sitting, but for some reason she couldn't move her arms. Her shoulders hurt. Her first thought was that she was paralyzed. She tried, and was relieved to at least be able to move her fingers, but her arms remained trapped behind her. She couldn't move them even a little. A second slap came out of nowhere. The force of it was hard enough to knock her and the chair over. Her head banged on the floor, instantly giving her a headache. Someone leaned down and tipped the chair, with her attached to it, back up, and planted it on the floor with a hard thump.
"Wakey, wakey. Sweet dream time is over."
She had heard that gravelly voice before, but couldn't remember where. Kate squinted against the harsh light. Wherever she was, it was mostly dark all around her. The only light in the place was the one shining on her. Smelly hands reached in and squeezed her cheeks.
"Smile for the camera."
The man, squeezing her cheeks, shook her face.
Come on, smile. It's showtime.
He had a stocking mask over his head, with holes cut out for the eyes in his mouth. He leaned down and put his face close in front of hers.
Feel free to scream for the camera. After all, you're the star, and the star always screams.
Kate was momentarily confused as to whether or not she was awake or asleep in some kind of bizarre dream. And then he twisted her left nipple until she did scream, an involuntary, helpless cry of pain that felt like it was shrieking up from her soul. The more she screamed, the more he twisted. The shock of pain brought her wide awake and brought tears to the scream. The sharp agony of it radiated through her entire chest as he kept at it until she was sure he intended to rip it off her breast. The man finally let go and stepped away from her. Kate shivered, panting under the agony of lingering pain, wanting nothing so much as to be able to put a comforting hand over it. As her wits came back into focus, she realized that she was in trouble. But she was having a hard time making sense of how she came to be in the dark room. There was a camera on a tripod not far off in front of her. The red light was blinking. She was being recorded. Beyond the camera was a dark metal table with a collection of items on it, but she couldn't tell what any of them were. She looked around and could see little more than a few glimpses of dark walls. There was a closed metal door she could just see over her left shoulder. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice sounded strange, hoarse and dry. "Where am I?" The man turned back. He grinned. His 2 middle teeth on the bottom were missing. The rest were dark yellow. He looked like nothing so much as a homeless derelict. Something told her he was something else entirely.
I'm Victor,
he said in a cheerful tone, as if happy to make her acquaintance. Kate vaguely remembered someone saying that name in their hotel room. She couldn't understand why she wasn't in the hotel. She could only remember being there. "Where's Jack? I need to see him. What have you done with him?"
Me? Nothing. He is for someone else. You are for me.
Kate spit blood to the side. It still didn't seem real. With the way her mind was swimming, it felt like some kind of drug-induced hallucination. "What are you talking about?" He cocked his head as if she were dense.
Jack Raines is meant for someone else. You, Miss Bishop, are here to entertain me and my audience.
A wave of dread washed through her when he gestured at the camera. "Where's Jack?" Kate screamed at him. He looked amused.
The founder of our little website has taken him somewhere for a private conversation.
Website. She realized who Victor was. He was the one who provided date rape drugs for Sid. It all came rushing in. He was the one who had tortured and killed Rita. "What are they doing with him?" She knew it was foolish to ask the question, but she couldn't help herself, as if it would somehow slow events from their headlong rush.
Probably pulling his intestines out a foot at a time,
Victor said with a wicked grin.
Wrapping them around a stick.
He shrugged again and cocked his head.
Maybe something else just as fun. That's not up to me. You are the one up to me. You belong to me now.
"Why are you doing this to us?" He shook a finger at her face.
Jack Raines is a dangerous man. You're nobody. You're only here to entertain me and my fans. But Jack Raines has outlived his usefulness.
"What usefulness?" she asked as Victor started toward the camera. He turned back and smiled.
He thinks he's so smart. But he has been finding those like you for us without even knowing it.
He cocked his head to the side.
He finds them just like he found you and your brother, and those before. He finds them. We snatch them.
Kate suddenly understood. It all came into sharp resolution as all the connections registered. Now that she was more awake, she tried again to move, but she was helplessly restrained. Kate remembered AJ's stories of killers and what they had done to their captives. She remembered AJ lying there on the floor with duct tape wrapped around her head, blinding her. Kate's frantic sense of panic at being so helpless, at what was to come, began to build. As Victor turned back toward the camera, she remembered what the Sifu had said to her that day. If you are attacked, it is because they have the advantage. For you, they will always be bigger, stronger. No one is going to help you, so don't expect any. You must do everything you can with the bad intention of hurting your enemy. She didn't see how she could do that. It seemed like meaningless words. She knew, though, that if she wanted to live, if she was going to help Jack, then her only chance was to think. No one was going to come to help her. She looked around again, trying to take everything in, trying to find something helpful. Her vision was still a bit blurred, but starting to clear. It felt like someone was pushing on her eyeballs. She knew that her arms were tightly bound behind her. By the way her skin pulled, they were probably wrapped with duct tape. It felt like that tape must be wound around the back of the chair. When she had been drugged and limp, Victor had an easy time of restraining her just the way he wanted. Victor suddenly returned with a pair of pliers. He put a grimy hand on her head and tilted it back. She tried to twist her face away from him. "What are you doing? Stop it!"
I'm going to have to take out your teeth.
Take out her teeth? It sounded insane. Kate twisted her head from side to side. "No! Stop it!" she yelled. He slapped her hard and shook the pliers at her face.
I had a girl bite me once when I was in her mouth enjoying myself. That was a bad experience. So now, I always take their teeth out first.
He grinned.
Feels better for me without the teeth, you know? You'll see how much I enjoy it.
He came back from the table with a small metal bucket, rattling something in it. He tipped it toward her so she could see inside. It was half full of bloody and broken teeth. It dawned on her what he was talking about. After putting the bucket back, he grabbed her hair to hold her head still. He pushed a filthy thumb in her mouth, feeling all of her teeth as if taking inventory. The hand with the thumb in her mouth was holding the pliers. She knew that if she didn't think, if she didn't do something, he was going to use that pliers to rip out her teeth. The thought terrified her. Kate bit down as hard as she could. Victor cried out in pain.
Let go!
When she didn't, he pressed a knuckle of his other hand against the rear of her jawbone. The pain was blinding. She tried to keep biting down on his thumb, knowing that if she let go, he would go to work on her teeth with the pliers, but the intense pressure against the back of her jaw was more than she could endure, and it finally forced her mouth open.
You will pay for that,
he growled, comforting his thumb. He went to the camera, checking the settings. While he did, Kate frantically looked around for something, anything to help her. There was nothing. And besides, she wouldn't be able to grab it if there was. There could have been a gun in her lap and she wouldn't be able to use it. She realized that her left leg ached something fierce. She looked down and saw that she still had her panties on, but her legs were bare. There was a tourniquet wrapped tightly around her left leg at mid-thigh. Below the tourniquet, her skin was going purple. Her arms were duct-taped behind her, but her legs were free. She realized why. With a sickening sense of dread, she remembered Jack describing what had happened to Rita. Kate remembered that it was Victor who had done it,
and that he had videoed it for the scavenger hunt site. Kate saw her jeans thrown off to the side. Her knives were in her jeans. They couldn't do her any good. Victor tipped the light above her to the side.
See? This is my collection of pretty ladies, like you. They all brought me great satisfaction. Like you will.
She could just make out half a dozen bags of some kind hanging against the wall. As she squinted, she realized that they were the naked, bloody torsos of women, tightly wrapped in plastic. Dismembered limbs were laid against the bodies under the tight plastic wrapping. Victor let go of the light, letting it swing over her.
After I finish my time with you, you will join my collection. But that's still days away. We will have plenty of time together. My fans enjoy my shows so much. I want it to last.
At the thought of what was in store for her, she couldn't stop her trembling. Kate could see the red light on the camera blinking. Victor went to the table and threw the pliers down. He picked up a handsaw. He returned and knelt down beside her. She could see his murderous eyes through the holes cut in the stocking cap.
Since you are going to be difficult, I'll wait to pull your teeth until later. Once you're more cooperative and don't thrash around as much, your mouth will be more useful then.
His grin was as evil as anything she had ever seen. Victor gripped her knee in a powerful hand. Try as she might to pull away, he held it still enough for what he wanted. He brought the handsaw up and laid the teeth down against her flesh between her knee and the tourniquet. He looked up at her with those murderous eyes.
Drug cartels and the like use a chainsaw for this, but I think that's silly. That way it's over so quickly. What fun is that? Better when it goes slow. Better for you to feel every saw cut. One cut at a time. One scream for each.
Kate could tell by his voice how excited he was getting. She remembered Jack telling her how Victor had sawed off Rita's legs just above the knee as she had screamed. Kate started crying in helpless panic. "No, please, no!" He paused to look up at her.
But I have to.
"No!" Kate wept. "You don't have to. Please!"
Yes, I do,
he said as he turned to grin toward the camera.
Having sex with you will be so much better once your legs are off, and I pull your teeth.
He laid the teeth of the saw back on her leg and cocked his arm back. Kate screamed. Chapter 57. Kate panted so hard as she screamed in panic that she was choking on her own spit. Through her panic, some part of her that wanted to live forced her to think. Begging a killer was what all victims did. They always begged, always. It never helped. Killers wanted their victims to beg, to scream, to cry in terror. If there was something she could do that might save her, it wasn't going to be begging. If she didn't do something, she and Jack were both going to die. As hard as it was, she forced herself to stop begging. "Your camera just went off," she said. Victor paused before taking the first saw cut and frowned up at her.
What?
"Your camera just shut off," Kate said through gasping tears. "The battery must be dead. Your audience is going to miss this." Victor shielded his eyes from the overhead light as he tried to see the camera. Kate could just make out the red light flickering, but for some reason he couldn't see it. Or maybe her suggestion was enough to make him fear she was right. He rose up and walked across the room to the camera. Kate's arms were taped tightly behind her back, taped to the old wooden chair, but her bare legs were free. He wanted them free so he could saw them off. He wanted her to struggle and kick while he cut them off. He liked his victim to struggle. As Victor fiddled with the camera, cursing to himself, trying to check if it was working, Kate swung her legs, rocking the chair onto its front two legs. She took one more big rock and rolled forward until she was standing on her feet. She was bent over at the waist, with the chair taped to her back, but she was standing. All the sharp grit was painful under her bare feet. She remembered what Jack had done. Without a moment's hesitation, and with every ounce of her strength, she raced across the room toward the camera. At the last instant, she sprang up, throwing her right leg around Victor's head as she violently spun her body around. The momentum yanked his head around. The collision and her weight drove him to the ground as she twisted herself in a circle with her legs still locked around his head. She felt his neck snap just before they crashed to the floor. Kate lay on her side a moment, catching her breath. Right leg locked around his neck. Triumphant. Not wanting to waste any time, she extricated herself and struggled to her feet again, then raced backwards, smashing the chair into the wall. The wood splintered. She hit the wall twice again until the chair broke. The bottom of the chair came off, but her arms were still taped together to the remainder of the chair back. Kate ran across the room, dropped to her knees, and slid to a stop by the saw next to Victor. After 3 tries with her fingertips, she managed to tip the saw so that the teeth faced up. She held the end of the saw tight between her bare knees, straddling the saw blade, and raking the duct tape around her wrists against the teeth, tearing it apart. Once she had enough of it cut through, she was able to wrench her arms in a way that tore the tape. In a few minutes more, she had the tape off her arms. Kate removed the tourniquet, pulled on her jeans and socks, and quickly put on her shoes. She didn't waste a second to congratulate herself. Instead, she opened the door on the side of the camera and pulled out the SD card. She put it in her pocket. As she crossed the room, she pulled the little flashlight Jack had given her out of her back pocket. Opening the door just a crack, she carefully peeked out. She didn't see anyone, so she slipped through. There were no lights on, leaving the mysterious place in the dark. By the looks of everything revealed by the flashlight, she was in a basement. As she came upon rolling steel doors, she pulled them aside. She pushed chain-link gates open as she frantically moved through the basement, searching all the grimy rooms and storage areas, looking for Jack, all the while her sense of dread rising by the moment. Even as she ran through the empty basement, she began to realize that he wasn't in the same building. This was Victor's slaughterhouse. Jack would have been taken somewhere else. The place was an immense, filthy, confusing maze. Plastic sectioned off portions, making it more confusing. She couldn't find a stairway up or a way out. Kate eventually found a window covered in bars up high. Outside, she could see only a dark alley and the corner of a dumpster. The window was too high to reach. She cast about, looking for something she could drag closer, but there wasn't anything she could use to stand on. She didn't know what to do. She was growing more frantic by the moment. She put her back against a wall and slid down, putting her head in her hands as she started to cry in fright for Jack. How was she going to find him? How was she going to help him? Stricken with a sudden idea, she pulled out the burner phone Jack had given her. She stared at it a moment, crying, trying to think. She pushed the first speed dial number. She wiped her tears with the back of her other wrist as she listened to the phone ring, once, twice. Then someone answered.
Yes?
A voice asked. Please, I need help. I need to talk to Dvora. I need to talk to Dvora. It's an emergency.
Code in.
Kate made a fist as she screamed. I don't know the code. I don't know it. Jack Rains is in trouble. They're going to kill him. I need help.
Code in.
I don't know any code. I only heard Jack say the name Dvora Art something.
Who is this?
Kate Bishop. I'm Kate Bishop. I'm the one who saw the guy with the bomb at O'Hare Airport. He called this number to get help. Please, they're going to kill him. I need help. Please help me. Please.
Hold.
As Kate held the phone to her ear, she gave in to weeping as she waited, not knowing if they were going to help her or not knowing if they could.
This is Dvora Artsy,
a woman abruptly said. Kate jumped to her feet. I'm Kate Bishop. Help me! They're going to kill Jack! I need help, please!
Jack?
Jack Rains!
You are the one who said that you saw someone with a bomb at O'Hare Airport?
Yes. A man went on an Air France plane. I'm the one who saw him and told Jack. He called you.
What kind of bomb did he have? Kate grabbed a fistful of hair, hardly able to control her rage.
It was surgically implanted in him. The bomb was inside his abdomen. When you were on the phone with Jack, I described the bomber and told you he had a bomb inside him.
I remember you, Kate. What's wrong? Tell me.
Kate momentarily gave in to a cry of relief. She wiped her nose on her hand as she composed herself in order to talk. Jack and I came to New York City. We went to the hotel. We were drugged. I woke up in a basement, duct-taped to a chair with a killer who was going to saw off my legs.
How did you get away?
I broke the bastard's neck. I managed to get free, but I don't know where I am. I don't know where they're holding Jack. The guy who had me said that they were going to kill him.
Who is they? Do you know?
I think it's a woman named Shannon Blair. She's the editor for his book. We came here to see her about his new book.
There was a brief pause. All right. I want you to listen carefully to me, Kate. Can you do that?
Yes.
Kate sucked back a sob.
Just please help me find him before they kill him, please.
I'm going to do that. Stay on the line with me.
Do something! Don't just talk to me, you need to do something!
I already am, Kate. You need to trust me. The woman's voice sounded calm and controlled. Tears running down her face, Kate nodded.
All right. What do you want me to do?
Do you have any idea of where you are?
No. It's a basement of a big building. They had me duct-taped to a chair.
Okay. You need to stay on the phone so we can find you.
This phone doesn't have GPS.
That doesn't matter. We're already on it. Can you see if you can find a door for me? See if you can find a way out of the basement? Kate nodded as she looked around in the darkness.
I'll try.
Just don't hang up. Even if you say something and I don't answer, I will still be here on the line. I'm trying to get you some help. Just don't hang up.
I won't,
Kate said, with a sob of relief, as she started down a hallway. There were pipes high up along one wall. She followed them through the darkness, her small flashlight showing her the way. Jack's flashlight showing her the way. He had to be all right. He just had to. Chapter 58. Kate pushed open the heavy door. It scraped against dirt and rubble. Before her was a cement stairway filled with papers and garbage. It led up to an alley. At the top, she stopped and carefully looked around.
Dvora, I'm out. I'm outside. I'm in an alley.
Can you see anything noteworthy? Kate looked around.
No. I can tell you that it's not the kind of neighborhood you'd want to be lost in at night.
I understand, Dvora said, sounding distracted as she also whispered something off to the side Kate couldn't hear.
There's a lot of scaffolding all along the street side of the building I was in. At the curb there are a couple of burned-out cars with no wheels up on blocks. There are coils of razor wire on the tops of some of the fences and walls.
Do me a favor, Kate.
What's that?
Kate asked as she looked out of the alley up and down the dark street. There were gangs of men on the corners to either end of the block. Their body language told her she was right about the neighborhood. Kate, I want you to step back in the alley and stay out of sight. Can you do that?
Why?
Kate asked as she moved back into the dark alley. Because I see your location and you were right about the area. We don't need any complications right now. I want you to stay out of sight. Help is on the way.
It is?
Kate was a bit surprised. Her hopes soared.
Thank you, Dvora. Please tell them to hurry. Do you know where Jack is?
Not yet. Just stay back, out of sight. We almost have you.
Almost had her. Those words nearly made Kate break down, but she held it together. All of a sudden, a black SUV squealed around the corner, nosed partway into the alley, and slammed on the brakes. The passenger door popped open. "Kate, he's there. Get in the vehicle." Kate leaped up and jumped into the front seat. Even as she was pulling the door closed, the driver was backing out of the alley. As the men standing on the corners to either side started swarming in toward them, he put the truck in drive and shot away. "He's got you," Dvora said. "You're in safe hands now." "Thank you," Kate said. "Shalom." The line went dead. Kate looked over at the driver. He gave her a brave kind of smile and extended a hand across the armrest. "I am Gilad Ben Ami," he said. He was middle-aged and had neat salt-and-pepper hair, a goatee, and a perfectly tailored gray suit. The knot of his dark red tie had a collar pin under it. Kate took his hand. "Kate Bishop." "I know," he said. "We are grateful to you and Jack." "Are you the police?" "No," he said with a kind of knowing smile. "I am a diplomat at the UN, here in the city." Diplomat. Kate had been around security long enough to know what that meant. Mossad. He shrugged noncommittally. "Better than the police," she said. He smiled at that. By the way he looked her up and down at what a bloody mess she was, she knew that he was concerned for her health. She didn't care about that. "Do you know where he is? Have you found him yet?" "Not yet. We're pinging his phone. You told Dvora that you and Jack were drugged?" "Yes. A killer named Victor that Jack had seen before had me down in that basement. He told me that someone else was going to kill Jack." "How did you get away?" "My arms were taped to a chair. The guy likes to saw off women's legs, so my legs weren't tied down. He films it and posts the videos." Kate pulled the SD card from her pocket, held it up for him for a second, and then dropped it in a tray in the center console. "When he had his back turned, fiddling with the camera, I was able to run up behind him and throw a leg around his head, twist it, and break his neck." Gilad arched an eyebrow. "Smart thinking." Kate looked down at her trembling hands. They were bloody. "I saw Jack do that before. That's what gave me the idea. He did that to kill a man who was trying to kill me." Gilad nodded as he raced down a street, going through a red light. "We taught him that. Do you have any idea who could have him? Or where?" "I think this woman, Shannon Blair, has him. She's his editor, and I think she was using him without his knowledge to find people like me. He told me one time that he couldn't figure out how these killers were getting to people he found with my ability before he could help them. I think she was the way they were doing it." He nodded as he let out an unhappy sigh. "This is bad business." The phone rang. He pushed a button on the steering wheel to answer it. A voice said, "The phone he made the call on from the airport is in your car." Gilad cursed in Hebrew, then said, "Okay," and hung up. "Jack split up our phones," Kate said, her heart sinking. "He gave me one to carry. It must have been the one he used at O'Hare." "What can you tell me about this woman, this Shannon Blair? Can you tell me anything?" Kate recognized an investigator asking critical questions, even if this one did have a thick accent. They raced past little markets, liquor stores, bars, and crowds of people hanging around on street corners smoking. Blocky brick buildings rose up to either side. "She's an editor," Kate said, trying to focus. "But Jack said the job is just a hobby for her. I think her job was an excuse, a way to use him. He said she's wealthy, travels in a limo all the time, and she likes to buy buildings. I think he mentioned high-rises. She must be some kind of property owner for her main business." Kate's mind was already racing to put all the pieces together. She looked over at him. "Can you find out what buildings she owns, and if any of them are empty? Like, maybe they're being remodeled?" Gilad pressed a button on the steering wheel for the phone. When someone answered, they spoke to each other in Hebrew, so Kate didn't know what they were saying, but she recognized the names Jack Rains and Shannon Blair, and she heard the urgency in the voices and the clipped clarity. After a brief wait, the person on the other end of the line came back with 2 addresses. Gilad cut around a corner, squealing the tires.
"We're lucky," he said as they picked up speed. "They aren't too far, and the traffic is light this time of night. This woman owns and rents out property. She purchased 2 buildings late last year. They are near one another, and both being renovated."
Gilad checked his mirrors and stepped on the gas. As they raced down the street, cutting through the traffic, sometimes taking to an empty oncoming lane, he looked over at her.
"How well do you know Jack Rains?"
Kate's brow wrinkled. She was hardly able to keep it together enough to get the words out. "I'm in love with him." She loved him, and she had never told him.
"Ah,"
was all Gilad said. But that said it all. Gilad made another call. He gave brief instructions and the 2 addresses. Kate couldn't understand the words, but she recognized that he was calling for backup. The drive seemed to take forever, but he finally skidded to a stop at the curb in front of a brick building. A dented dumpster sat on the sidewalk outside, and plastic covered the dark windows. Gilad turned to her and pointed a finger up at the place.
"This is one of the buildings."
He pointed a thumb back across the street.
"That's the other one."
Kate already had her hand on the door handle. "Let's go."
"No," he said. "You wait here. I'm going to go in and search this one. Help is on the way. It will be here any moment. After I look in here, I will go check the other one. You wait here, please."
"Like hell," Kate said, as she opened the door and jumped out. She looked back in. "While you check this building, I'll go across the street to look in the other one." It was obvious that he knew he wasn't going to be able to talk her out of it. He tried anyway.
"Wait. I have backup on the way."
"Good," she said as she started running. "If you don't find him, come find me." Across the street, the second building looked in bad shape. The outside was encased in a web of scaffolding pipe and a lot of plastic. Planks among the pipes made levels of walkways high up in the air. The sidewalk was boarded off to keep people from being killed by falling rubble. She didn't see anyone on the street. Kate ran along the wooden fence to the alley. It was dark, wet, and lined with dumpsters. She ran into the alley, looking for a way to get into the building. She found 2 steel doors, but they were both locked. She stumbled to a stop when she saw a low window with the corner broken out. She carefully reached in, unlatched the lock, then pushed the rusty window open. She shined her flashlight in and saw that it was about a 6-foot drop to a floor littered with dirt and crumbled debris. Kate slipped her feet through first and jumped in. Chapter 59. Kate landed on her feet as lightly and quietly as possible. The flashlight revealed square, concrete support columns at regular intervals. Overhead were webs of pipes and ductwork draped with filthy cobwebs. She made her way across the room, trying to rush, trying to do it quietly. Crumbled debris crunched under her feet, echoing through the darkness. She paused, listening for voices, but it was dead quiet. On the far side of the room, she found a broad opening into another section of the basement. Once through the opening, she thought she heard something to the left. She followed the sounds deeper into the dark wasteland. After going for quite some distance, she rounded a corner to abruptly find herself beside the driver's side of a stretch limo parked in the near darkness. Ahead of it, a ramp rose quite a ways up to the street level, where there was a closed metal garage door. A single fluorescent fixture high up near the door provided weak light in the sea of darkness below. It was too late to be careful. The driver had already seen her. "Hey!" he yelled as he bounded out of the car, reaching under his suit jacket for a knife in a sheath on his belt. He hesitated for an instant. "You?" He obviously recognized her. Kate certainly recognized the murderous look in his eyes. He was probably one of the men who had carried her and Jack out of the hotel, no doubt out of a service elevator and back alley entrance. Kate was sure that Shannon Blair, who got them that particular room, had it all planned out and prearranged. They walked right into her trap. The driver was a burly man with greasy black hair combed over to one side. Before he was fully standing, before he had fully drawn the knife, Kate was already in the kill zone. A lightning-quick strike sliced open the side of his neck. By the jet of blood, she knew she'd hit the carotid artery, but she rapidly slashed it again for good measure. His killer eyes widened as shock and panic froze him in place. Blood erupted from under his hand at his throat. In mere seconds, she could see in his eyes that he was rapidly losing consciousness. Kate kicked him over. He slammed heavily to the floor beside the car. She leaned into the limo and quickly searched around inside. She opened the center armrest and glove box looking for a gun, but didn't find one. She saw a garage door opener on the visor. She knew that if she pressed the button, the metal door would make a racket as it opened, but maybe no one was close enough to hear it. Or they might think the driver had opened it for something. If the door was open, not only would Gilad have a way in, it would give him a good idea of where she was. The body beside the limo at the bottom of the ramp would certainly confirm that they were in the right place. Kate pressed the button. The metal door clattered as it began to open, but it wasn't as loud as she had feared. As she turned, her flashlight revealed footprints in the dirt and debris all around the car. She spotted drag marks leading away from the back door of the limo. A sense of desperate hope flashed through her at knowing that those drag marks would be from them pulling Jack out of the car and dragging him to the place where they likely intended to torture information out of him before they slaughtered him. Kate followed the swerving tracks of the drag marks and footprints back into the depths of the basement. They led to a concrete stairwell on the far side of the room. She hurried down the steps into the bowels of the decrepit building. It stank of mildew and rancid oil. At the bottom, she leaned out and saw light ahead among the support columns, ductwork, and the building system's equipment layered with dirt. The drag marks wove their way among the machinery toward the light. With her vision adjusted to the darkness, Kate switched off her light, put it in her back pocket, and took out her second knife. The blade snapped open with a soft metallic snick. As she came around a large square support column, she suddenly spotted Jack. She gasped. He was hanging on a rope by his wrists. The rope went up through a pulley at the ceiling and then to a cleat on the wall where it was tied off. Jack was without a shirt and covered in blood and angry red wounds. His feet swayed a few inches off the floor. Kate's heart was beating so hard she could feel herself rock back and forth. She quickly peered around, but didn't see anyone. She knew, though, that there had to be people around. Either they were back in the shadows, or maybe they had gone off for some reason. If they were gone, this was her best chance. She might not get another. She ran for the rope tied to the wall.
"Kate! Behind you!"
Jack shouted. Kate spun in time to see a big man reaching out to grab her. She hammered her knives into his eyes with a 1-2 punch. As he screamed with an ear-piercing shriek and his hands came up to cover his face, Kate swept her blade across his abdomen. His intestines spilled partway out and then began unfolding down toward his feet. Kate immediately turned back to Jack, dangling helpless at the end of the rope.
"Move!"
Jack screamed. Kate instantly understood and dove to the side as a woman in a dark pantsuit across the room fired a gun. The sound of the gun going off in the basement was deafening. Kate heard the bullet hit the floor right beside her. She immediately rolled the other way as the woman fired again. The sound of the gunshots echoed through the basement, but the shot missed. Kate rolled back to her feet and frantically ran in a zigzag as fast as she could, back and forth, denying the woman a clear shot, all the time racing closer. As she dodged to the side, running past a square column for cover, an arm reached out and lifted her from her feet. It was a sweaty man in a black sleeveless undershirt. Kate stabbed a knife down in each side of the man's bull neck several times as fast as she could. She knew that it wasn't a fatal strike, but it cut muscle and surprised him enough to drop her. As she fell toward the floor, she stuck a blade in his thigh and dragged it down with her, laying his thigh muscle open. When the woman fired at Kate again, the shot instead hit the man in the center of his back. By the way he immediately went down, the bullet must have hit his heart and killed him instantly. Kate sprang over the man, using her foot on his body to help her push into a dead run. As Kate raced in to close the distance in time, the woman urgently turned the gun toward Jack. "Enough of this!" She fired 4 quick shots into Jack as Kate screamed, "No!" Shannon Blair swung the gun back toward Kate, but Kate was already there. She snatched the woman's gun hand as she raced in, twisted violently under it, breaking the woman's wrist. She spun the arm around behind and used her leverage to flip the woman through the air. Shannon Blair slammed down hard on her back with a grunt. Kate's full weight came down on a knee to the center of the woman's chest, driving the rest of the wind from her lungs. Kate had stripped the gun from Shannon Blair's hand when she flipped her over. She gripped the gun in both hands, pointing it down at the center of the woman's face. The defiant eyes of a killer looked up at her. Kate pulled the trigger 4 times. With the cement floor right under her head, the bullets fragmented and blew out the back of the skull, spraying blood and brain matter across the floor. The sound of the shots echoed through the basement. As Kate scrambled to her feet, she heard shots, but these were different. It was a burst of full-auto fire, 3 shots in the span of a fraction of a second. When she turned to the sound, bringing her gun up, she saw red mist spray from the head of another one of Shannon Blair's men. His gun clattered across the floor as he went down. Kate saw 2 men way back across the room running in out of the darkness. One of the men was dressed in a gray suit, the other in dark clothes and carrying a small submachine gun. He had taken out the gunman with that precise, brief burst. Kate turned and raced to the wall. Her fingers clawed at the rope laced tightly around the cleat. She was finally able to undo it and free the rope. Using her weight to counterbalance Jack's weight, she lowered him to the floor. As she was doing so, she heard 2 more bursts of automatic gunfire in the distance. The threat was being handled by Gilad and his men. Once she had Jack down on his back, a pool of blood immediately started to spread under him. Kate cut his wrists free and then took his face in both hands. "Jack! Jack! It's all right now. I'm here. We're all right." Even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. He stared at her, unable to take his eyes off her. "Lie still," Kate said, smoothing a hand down his face. "Don't talk. Help is on the way."
"Too late," he whispered. "She fooled me. I couldn't see what you can. She fooled me."
"No, Jack, it's not too late." Kate took one of his hands in hers. "Don't say that. It's going to be all right." He smiled a little. "Jack, I love you. Do you hear me? I love you. Please hang on, please. I love you so much." His smile widened, and his grip on her hand tightened.
"You made my wish come true."
"I love you, Jack. I do. Hold on. Please hold on. I need you so much."
"I love you too, Kate. I was going to tell you at dinner. You taught me what living really means. Life is too precious to let the past steal it away. I was going to tell you. I was going to ask you to spend the night with me. To spend every night with me."
"Yes." She kissed his lips as she squeezed his hand. "Forever, yes." He smiled.
"It doesn't hurt anymore," he said. "I want you to know. I don't hurt anymore. You made all my pain go away."
"Me too. I love you, Jack." He smiled again.
"Live, Kate. Live."
And then the light of his soul began to fade away from his beautiful eyes. His hand went slack. His last breath left his body. Kate screamed, "No! Jack, no!"
She lay across his chest, listening for a heartbeat. There was none.
"Don't leave me! Please, Jack!" she wept. "I love you! Don't leave me!"
Kate looked back over her shoulder and saw men in dark clothes coming at a dead run.
"Hurry!"
she screamed.
"Help him!"
As they rushed in, Gilad's gentle hands lifted her out of the way as the men crowded down around Jack. Gilad sheltered her in his arms as she wept in helpless agony. One of the men gathered around Jack checked him and immediately started giving him CPR, counting each compression out loud. Another man put a mask over Jack's face and started squeezing the bag attached to it to get air into his lungs. A third man pulled packs from the cargo pockets of his vest. He put a needle in Jack's arm and held up a bag of fluid. A man who'd been carrying a case in each hand set them down and started pulling out equipment. He lifted out defibrillator paddles and squeezed gel onto them as another man switched on the machine. Kate watched in a daze as he used the paddles, trying to start Jack's heart. Each time he called "clear" and hit the button, Jack's body flinched. But each time they had to go back to doing CPR as the defibrillator charged. She lost count of how many times they tried to restart his heart. Each attempt felt as if it jolted her heart. Gilad, seeing how grave the situation truly was, started pulling Kate away. She stretched an arm back toward Jack.
"No! No! Let me stay!"
The man with the paddles sat back on his heels, looking at Gilad, and shook his head. Kate heard a truck engine in the distance, rumbling through the basement, and then more of the men in black ran in, pulling a gurney. They never stopped giving Jack CPR, even as they lifted him onto the gurney. Once he was on the gurney, the man with the paddles tried again. Jack's body jumped, but she knew by the men's reaction that it hadn't worked. Kate thought she might faint when she heard one of the men say that when they got him in the van, they were going to have to crack open his chest to get at his heart. She clutched Gilad's sleeve.
"I want to go with him."
Gilad's arm around her shoulders squeezed her tight as he pulled her away.
"You don't need to see that. Please, Kate, you must remember him for his words to you. That would be what he would want the most."
Kate looked up at him.
"I have to go with him."
Gilad finally relented and gave her a nod.
"Let them do their job. We will follow in my car."
She could tell that he believed Jack was beyond help. Chapter 60. Kate saw the impeccably dressed figure of Gilad Ben-Ami coming across the expanse of grass. He was holding a bouquet of flowers. Kate, lying on her side on Jack's grave, didn't get up when Gilad came to a stop over her. He stood for a moment, gazing down at her, and then he lowered himself down to sit on the grass beside her.
"I brought some flowers," he said.
He lifted them out to show her briefly before he placed them in the small metal vase above Jack's gravestone. "Thank you," Kate said. "They're beautiful." After that terrible night, it seemed like the world had slowed to a stop, leaving Kate feeling empty and numb. John's death and the deaths of AJ and her family seemed like they had all happened in a dream. But Jack's death was a nightmare. Kate knew that the sight of them loading him into that van in the basement while working on his unresponsive, blood-slick body was something that would haunt her forever. Gilad and Kate had followed the specially equipped van on the way to a trauma center, while what he assured her was an elite Israeli combat medical team worked on Jack. When Gilad received a call from the van as they followed behind, he told her that they had opened Jack's chest and were massaging his heart to try to keep him alive. Much later, that awful night, as she sat beside Gilad on a bench in the cold hallway of a private medical facility, doctors continued to try everything humanly possible to save Jack. But in the end, there was nothing more they could do. Gilad had been invaluable after Jack's death. He had handled everything, including taking care of all the arrangements as well as helping her in a strange city. If there were any police involved, Kate never knew of it.
She suspected that diplomatic immunity had been involved, and everything had been kept under the radar in order to protect her. Gilad had taken her to a secluded hotel and made sure that no one bothered her. He had meals delivered. She ate few of them. His country had given Jack a beautiful funeral in a private, exclusive cemetery protected with towering old trees. A lot of people attended. She hadn't known any of them, but they all knew Jack, and they knew of her. Most all of them wept. Kate was appreciative of those who came, who shook her hand or hugged her and told her how sorry they were and how much Jack had done for them all. A woman with wavy black hair had given Kate a hug and introduced herself. It was Dvorah Artsy. She had come from Israel for the funeral, as had a number of others. She told Kate that she was the bravest woman she had ever had the honor to know. Kate remembered begging for help on the phone and didn't feel the least bit brave. Dvorah had stayed until just the previous day, spending the time with Kate so she wouldn't be alone. It was comforting to have her there. She confided in Kate that her husband had been killed in a bombing. That bonded them in a kind of silent sisterhood, the living left behind by evil, both having been in love with men who fought to protect life. Gilad had given the eulogy. He said to the solemn audience that they were all his countrymen, and they all lived every day with what Jack Rains had told them about, that the world was coming to dark times, and that in the fight against evil, Israel was the tip of the spear. Jack, he said, was the sharp point of that spear. In that effort, Jack Rains, a man from another country, a man not of their religion or heritage, had been a true friend to them all, for he fought for something universal. He fought so that others might have the chance to live their lives. He said that Jack's tireless work had saved a great many people, more than any of them would ever know. Gilad said that while darkness had taken him, it did not defeat him, because he had brought light to them all, and in each of them there would always be a piece of Jack Rains lighting the way for them. Kate told Gilad that it was the most beautiful thing she had ever heard. He said it was because it was from his heart, and the hearts of all those who knew Jack. Jack had no living relatives that anyone knew of. Gilad insisted that everything he had should go to her. Among Jack's possessions, besides the bank accounts, was the thumb drive that he had used to take her to the underworld of the darknet. She also had his burner phones with all the numbers he had, like the one he had used to call for help when Kate saw a killer boarding the Air France plane, the same one she had used to call Dvorah for help. Jack's laptop had a lot of information on people he was trying to contact. Gilad said that he hoped she would get in touch with them, because they were like her. They had the vision she had, and maybe she could help them come to understand that vision and the gift of life they had been born with. He told her that they had worked with Jack for years, and while Jack had found a number of people who could see evil, none of them had ever been able to do what she could do. What Kate could do, Gilad said, was something beyond exceptional, beyond what any other had ever been able to do. He had no idea how to explain the ability. He only knew she possessed it. Kate didn't know what to think of that. He also delivered an open invitation to come to Israel any time she wanted, for as long as she wanted, as their guest. In the days after Jack's death, Gilad and his people had managed to go through Shannon Blair's effects and found passwords, credentials, and other information that allowed them to take control of the scavenger hunt site. Gilad told Kate that their investigation revealed that Shannon Blair had been a rare and ruthless female serial killer, a black widow, linked to 14 murders they knew of so far, but he was certain there were many more. Apparently, she started out killing homeless men she found living in the buildings she bought. There was no way to tell how many more of those men she killed, or what she did with the bodies. From what they learned in her effects, she was obsessed with the act of killing. By chance, from Jack's book, Shannon Blair learned of those special people like Kate. It was one of those connections Jack spoke of wherein predators crossed paths with those able to see them. As a result of that connection, she had formed a nest of killers dedicated to eliminating those who could see them for who they were. Because he was blind to what Kate had easily seen in her eyes, Jack had unwittingly helped Shannon Blair find some of those people with that rare vision. Like a black widow, she drew them into her nest. Gilad said that they had cleaned everything off the site. Kate's photos were gone. The rewards were gone. There were no longer any active scavenger hunts. The torture videos were gone. The review section was gone. The only thing left of the site was the homepage. There, the Mossad had posted a photo and some text. They had lined up over a dozen dead who had been a part of the scavenger hunt nest, with Shannon Blair lying in the center, the back half of her head gone, and taken a photo of the collected bodies in all their bleeding glory. They put it up on the homepage, saying only that these were killers who had been dealt with. They then locked down the site so that no one could add anything, alter anything, or take it down. All of the killers or want-to-be killers who had visited the site before would now find only a photo of their dead idols. The remains of Rita and others killed by Victor and other members of the nest had finally been laid to rest. Rights to A Brief History of Evil went to Kate, as did the royalties. But with the numbered account Jack had given her and his considerable wealth, the royalties hardly mattered. Besides the information on others like herself that Kate had found on Jack's computer, she had also found the manuscript of his new book. Jack had told her that he had work to do on it, but he wasn't exactly telling her the truth. She discovered that it was actually mostly finished, except for the last important connection he was trying to make. He had notes having to do with a rare kind of super-visionary who could see more than merely a killer by looking into their eyes. Jack theorized that as a result of evolution, such a person would have to exist, and they would be able to see evil itself, and the shape it would take. In his notes, he said that he was still looking for that rare individual who could see those things that no one else could. Kate knew that she was the one he had been searching for. She now knew enough to complete the manuscript, but she decided not to. She had it, and that was enough. Jack believed that mankind would ultimately survive or not. He couldn't save the world. She couldn't save the world. She knew from Jack that it was up to each of them to live the life they had to its fullest in the world they were born into. Only in that way could they make their world better.
"How are you doing, Kate?" Gilad asked.
"My life is over," she said as she sat up. Gilad smiled as he touched her cheek.
"Jack would not like to hear you say that. He fought so that you might live."
Kate felt a flash of shame. She nodded. "You're right." He handed her something. She saw that it was an SD card. "What's this?"
"It's the card out of the camera that Victor was using to record what he was doing to you. The one from the camera filming Jack has been destroyed. No one will ever see it. I am returning this one to you because it is you on the video. It was difficult to watch. I was going to destroy it, but I thought that maybe you should be the one to do that if you wish. I think that someday, if you ever decide to watch it, you will see a woman who is brave, a woman who is inspiring."
Kate closed her hand around it and held her fist to her chin. Thank you. You are a very thoughtful man, Gilad. He huffed a brief laugh. He turned serious then as he gazed at her. When there is great trouble in the world, God sends us angels. You never know what form those angels will take. You are one of those angels. Kate shook her head. The only angel I ever knew was Angel Janek. She was an avenging angel. She protected lives. She died in this struggle. It was because of her that I met Jack. He gave her an admonishing look. You saved the lives of hundreds of people about to board that plane. None of them will ever know of the angel watching over them, the angel who saved their lives from evil that day. You saved me. We all save each other, Kate Bishop. She smiled a sad smile. I guess we do. Gilad reached into the inside breast pocket of his suit jacket. Speaking of which, I have a problem. I hate to do this to you. Honestly, I do, Kate, he said, looking quite guilty. I am hoping that you might be willing to help me. It's all right, she said, laying a hand on his. I understand. Kate took the stack of photos from him. She shuffled through the whole stack, then pulled one photo out of the rest and tossed it on the grass before him. It was a smiling, intelligent-looking young man, but he had the terrifying eyes of a killer. She saw that in his eyes, and so much more. This one, she said. You are sure? Kate nodded. You have 12 hours. 12 hours? He has a bomb in a moped, or scooter, or whatever they're called. It's a faded red and has some rust. It's a big bomb, in the hollowed-out seat. He intends to set it off just over 12 hours from now. Gilad frowned. Where is he? Where is he going to use this bomb? Do you know? The Israeli embassy in Sweden. He stared at her. You're serious? When he saw that she was, he asked, How can you know this, just from looking at his photo? Kate arched an eyebrow. You're the one who said I was an angel. You tell me. She thought about what Jack had said in the manuscript about believing that there was someone who possessed the ability to do just such a thing. He had written that before he met her. Gilad hastily stuffed the photos back in his breast pocket as he clambered back to his feet. I must go and tend to this. Thank you, Kate. Thank you for all the people who will not die in 12 hours. He reached down to touch her cheek. Shalom. Kate looked up at him. What does that mean, shalom? It means peace, he said. Kate smiled. I like that. Shalom, Gilad. He turned back as he was leaving and waved. I will call you. I would like to take you to dinner. Someplace nice. I'd like that, Kate called after him. When he was gone, Kate went back to her silent vigil at Jack's grave. She touched the headstone with his name. He was part of the history of mankind now, the long history he spoke so passionately about. She knew that someday she would move on, but for the time being she felt that it was important to come every day to tell him that she loved him. She had been able to tell him that when he was alive, and she knew what it had meant to him. He had told her that he loved her, and she knew what it meant to her. It would last her a lifetime. By the time it was dark, the other visitors had long since gone. Kate didn't want to leave. It felt like she would be deserting him, leaving him all alone in the night. But she could see the caretaker waiting by the door of the reception area, a finger flicking the keys at his belt. He obviously didn't want to be rude and ask her to leave, but it was past closing time.
In the gathering darkness, Kate made her way across the grass and then the asphalt path to where the caretaker stood, waiting to let her out so he could lock up. She was staring off into her thoughts of Jack as she walked past the caretaker. He reached out and gripped her upper arm to stop her. Beyond the man's filthy tan shirt sleeve, she saw the sign on the door marked Exit. Something had been handwritten under the exit sign with a grease pen. It said, "Not anymore." Kate looked over into his eyes. They were the eyes of a stone-cold killer. The eyes of the devil.
"We don't often get visited by an angel here,"
he said with a wicked grin. The grin faded as he leaned closer, peering into her eyes.
"Do I know you? You look familiar somehow."
Kate's thumb on the assist button snapped the blade of her knife open. "I should look familiar," she said. "Especially in this place."
"Yeah? Why's that?"
"Because I'm the angel of death." Chapter 61. "It's for you," the flight attendant said, holding out the handset of one of the 3 phones on the bulkhead. Seeing that it was the secure line, Dvora sprang up from the thick leather chair and took the handset. "This is Dvora?" "It's Gilad," the voice on the other end said. "Gilad." She was suddenly tense. "How did it go?" "Kate Bishop was right. We caught the man before he could get to our embassy in Sweden. He had a bomb in the hollowed-out seat of his rusted red moped, just as she said he would." Dvora let out a sigh. Kate Bishop just saved yet more lives. Jack never before found a subject quite like her. "Yes," he agreed. "She is for sure a remarkable woman." "I'm glad I had some time to get to know her a little better." "Me too," Gilad said. "She has a warrior's heart." Dvora knew why he was calling. She wished she had better news. She waited, listening to the constant muffled roar of jet engines. The monitor on the bulkhead said they were at an altitude of 42,000 feet, with a time to destination of just over 5 hours. Out the window, the setting sun behind them was mostly hidden by a haze of clouds far below. The surface of the ocean glowed golden in the late daylight. "So how is he doing?" Gilad finally asked. "Any change?" Dvora looked over at the bed locked down along the side of the cabin. An assortment of equipment stood clustered at the head of the bed, near the bulkhead, all of it alive with a steady stream of information. Lights blinked. Green lines blipped in spikes. Numbers flashed. Every once in a while, the blood pressure cuff inflated. She looked at the slow, steady rhythm of the heart monitor. "I think the same." "No better?" Dvora appraised the collection of tubes coming out of the side of his chest, the PICC line in his upper arm, the bags of fluids hanging over him with lines running to both wrists, all the information on the monitors, and the ventilator helping him breathe. 2 nurses sat below the equipment, monitoring it continually and hanging full bags of fluid when needed. The doctor was resting in one of the jet's plush tan leather seats opposite the bed. The doctor looked up at her. She lifted out the handset as if to say Gilad wanted a report. The doctor shook his head. "No, I'm afraid not," Dvora told Gilad. "His condition is the same." "But he is still alive," Gilad said, sounding as if he insisted on it. "Still alive," Dvora confirmed. "Jack Rains is a hard man to kill." "This is good news," Gilad decided. "They did not expect him to live even this long. So this is good news." Dvora didn't want to let him read too much into it. "Listen, Gilad.
Dr. Lewin warned me again that Jack will likely never come out of the coma, and even if he does, there is no telling how long his brain was deprived of oxygen, so there is no way to know if Jack Rains is still Jack Rains, or if he ever will be again. Dr. Lewin knows full well how important Jack Rains is, and he's keeping a constant watch, but he doesn't sound optimistic.
But Jack is still alive, Gilad said,
the insistence still in his tone. Dvorah smiled. Yes, my friend, he is still alive.
When you get him to Tel Aviv, maybe the doctors there will be able to do more. They are remarkable. You will see. They will be able to do something.
Dvorah knew that while Jack might in fact live, it was likely that he would always be in a coma and on life support. From what Dr. Lewin had told her, people simply didn't recover from the kind of injuries he had sustained, or from having their heart stop for as long as his had. Maybe, she said, not wanting to crush his hopes. She changed the subject. Have you told Kate Bishop that Jack is still alive? The jet engines droned on as she waited for him to answer. Out the window, Dvorah saw only what looked to be an endless expanse of ocean.
No, I have not told her, Gilad finally said. I don't have the heart to give her hope when there is so little.
Dvorah let out a sorrowful sigh. I suppose it's for the best.
For now, I think it is, Gilad said. We will get him back to Tel Aviv and let the best people we have see what can be done. They have a team standing by, waiting for you to get there.
I don't think Dr. Lewin has slept for more than 10 minutes at a time, she said, looking down at the man. He's been by Jack's side continually. He's worried, Gilad. Something about the fluid drainage. Even though the opening down the center of Jack's chest does seem to be healing, Dr. Lewin says that as soon as we land, he thinks they may have to open up his chest again and go back in.
If it is possible to save Jack, I know our people will do it.
Dvorah twisted the phone cord around her hand. From your lips to God's ear.
With the funeral and all those who attended, Gilad said, everyone believes Jack Rains is dead. That is what we need now. If we plant some seeds in the right places, word will leak out. Then those who hunt him will also believe he is dead and buried. Having everyone believe Jack Rains is dead is the best way to protect him.
Dvorah nodded. You're right. He's too important not to do everything we can. Having the funeral to make people believe Jack died was the best thing to do. But if he recovers, he's too important to let anything happen to him.
We won't let anything happen to him, Gilad assured her. Jack Rains is again a ghost. He was always good at that. We will help keep it that way. He will once more be off the grid, so even if he lives, no one will know anything about him. As far as anyone is concerned, as far as anyone but us knows, Jack Rains no longer exists.
Dvorah laid a hand on Jack's arm as she looked down at him. It would be good to have him be safe. She didn't know if he would ever come out of the coma, if he had brain damage, or if he would ever be himself again. But if they had to, they would care for him in return for all he had done for them. He would be safe from those who hunted him. And if he did recover... Agreed, Dvorah said. Jack Rains will once again be a ghost.
This has been a High Bridge production, read by Elizabeth Rogers. Copyright 2016 by Terry Goodkind. Published by arrangement with Scoville, Galen, Gauche, Literary Agency, Incorporated. Recording copyright 2016 by Highbridge, a division of Recorded Books.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.